Uh, uh, okay, sir. Sonal, sir.
Sonal, are we good to go?
Okay, sir. Yes, madam. You can start, please. Thank you. Yes, sir. Okay.
Sonal, are we good to go?
Yes, madam. You can start, please. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Sonal, are we good to go?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Audible?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Just a minute, ma'am. Just a minute. Just a minute. Okay. A very good afternoon to all of you. Am I audible? Am I audible?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. A very good afternoon to all of you. I welcome you all on behalf of Eco Club. Eco Club, a premier apex committee of our college, is dedicated toward creating awareness among students. All throughout the year, we used to conduct several workshop activities and webinar for our students. Today, we are very fortunate to have with us Dr. Monica Kaul, Assistant Professor, Department of Botany, Hansraj College, University of Delhi. She has done her BSc, MSc, MPhil, and PhD in botany from University of Delhi. She has research. She has a research and teaching experience of more than 15 years. She is also a recipient of Summer Research Fellowship IASE Bangalore 2017, Ram Session Fellowship from Current Science Academy 2005. She has an expertise in the field of environmental biology, heavy metal toxicity, reproductive biology. She is a very popular science writer and has contributed a lot toward environment. She has more than 25 research paper articles in both national and international journals and magazines. She has also contributed several chapters in several books. I welcome you, Dr. Monica Kaul, and I also welcome our principal, Dr. Sadhna Sharma, our convener and co-convener of my Eco Club committee, and all my senior teachers to be part of this webinar, and my colleagues and dear student to be there through YouTube link. Now I request and invite Dr. Monica Kaul to please deliver her talk. I welcome you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Sonal, for this kind introduction. Let me at the outset thank Shyama Prasad Mukherjee College and the principal, especially of the college, for starting this endeavor wherein you are having lots of lectures every week. I congratulate Shyama Prasad Mukherjee College, especially the principal of the college, for initiating so many activities related to environment. Ma'am, I have been to your college once, and it was a pleasure to look at the clean and green campus of your college. I could see your students are also doing a lot of work in terms of growing potted plants on in waste bottles and other things. So your college is setting an example for others in the campus and adjacent areas that small things matter, and contributions from the faculty as well as the students can change the way we look at environment. It's probably my second time when I'm interacting with the Eco Club of Shyama Prasad Mukherjee College and talking to the students. It was a pleasure last time also when we had a talk on energy and environment. And today I have chosen a topic which is not purely science, because I guess most of your students from other disciplines who study environmental science as a subject. So I'll try not to be very scientific, but yet try to convey to you how women form an integral component of the entire gamut of the biological diversity, and how women can contribute in biodiversity conservation, and what is the standing per se in terms of where our legislations are, where the various treaties and protocols stand, where various conventions are, and how are women contributing to all those things. So, with this brief introduction, I hope we will have an interactive seminar and we can talk to the students in between. Students, please feel free to unmute yourself And if you feel that you want to ask any question, please ask. Before I start, I just want to give a disclaimer that whatever I'm going to present to you is based on the research which I have conducted through various search engines. Because from a social science perspective, I wanted to bring in environment here. My specialization is on environment. I have done my PhD on effect of heavy metals on the leguminous plants. But most of the pictures, most of the data which I am sharing with you is from the internet, Google, and some of the pictures which you see here are copyrighted, and some are taken from the Creative Commons. And the information which I'll be sharing with you throughout this lecture is based on my understanding of the issue and based on some of the lectures which I have attended by some eminent people in the field of environment. So this was important because the pictures are not my original. Okay. So as most of you know, the topic has been already announced, and it is on women and biodiversity conservation. So before I start with where women come in, I must tell you what biodiversity is. And most of you, I'm sure, are familiar with these terms. So if there are many people who have given different definitions of biodiversity, but to be a uniformly accurate, I say that biodiversity is the sum total of all living organisms that exist on this earth. It encompasses the variety of different life forms. And these life forms can belong to different taxonomic groups. So when I'm talking about biodiversity, nematodes are a part of biodiversity, annelids, which includes your earthworms, they are a part of biodiversity, butterflies are a part of biodiversity, fish are a part of biodiversity, algae are a part of biodiversity, elephant is a part of biodiversity, and not to mention your small ant is also a part of biodiversity. And bacteria, which are microscopic, are also the part of biodiversity. So biodiversity is sum total of all living organisms, irrespective of their taxonomic affinities. So some may belong to bryophytes, some may be pteridophytes. I don't want to bore you with these terminologies. So broadly, some may be insects, birds, reptiles, everything, even bacteria and the viruses are the part of biological diversity. Now, why should you be talking about diversity, or why should anybody be talking about biodiversity? All of us know that whatever food we eat, be it, in the morning we start with milk or tea or a chapati, bread, cornflakes, meat, egg, everything comes from the biological resources. We directly consume any these life forms or some parts of these life forms or some secondary components of these life forms. But whatever we eat comes from this biological diversity. Some of the components are processed, some we eat raw, and some we cook and eat. But the biodiversity is the genesis of our food. Basic needs of humans, roti, kapda, or makan, all come from biodiversity. The cotton, which we make clothes from, is actually a component of a plant, a gossypium, of a cotton plant. The epidermal hairs of the seeds which we use. Jute is used for making fiber. Wool is used for making various substances, and these are come from the biological resources. Silk, which is considered to be a very nice fabric, comes with interaction of a silkworm with the mulberry plant. So just to give you a more emphatic idea that all the food resources, these fibers are coming from biological, natural fibers are coming from biological resources. Many of our housing requirements, and especially in the rural areas, are met by these biological resources. We use bamboos, we use tea, we use wood, we use walnut wood. Wherever the plants are growing, they are either used for thatching, are used for mixing with the mud to make bricks and other things. So we know that even If you go back to history, most of the dwellings were made from the natural resources, which were components of biological diversity. So these are the basic requirements. Besides that, there are so many elements which we all suffer from at some point of time in our life. But we fall back on biodiversity again. Many of the drugs which we use these days actually were based on some of the natural components, and now we have synthetic, drugs for those natural components as well, because the natural sources are not adequate enough to give the drugs in large quantities. So the pharmaceutical industry is highly dependent upon the biological resources. Nowadays, there's a lot of emphasis on the Ayurvedic system of drugs. Even Government of India, Prime Minister of India is very keen that we should look at our own biological resources and try to screen them for certain metabolites which can serve as potent drugs, and we can cure harmful and disaster, dreadful diseases like those of COVID. And just few days back, a paper appeared where, US, they are looking at the biological resources for finding cure for the secondary infections and other body, issues which are created due to the COVID infection. So these are the sources of, we must know biological diversity, we must screen biological diversity, we must explore biodiversity, we must know biodiversity, because we know that there are large number of viruses and bacteria that are looming large in environment. They can anytime invade human societies and create pandemics like the one which we just had to encounter, and which we are still struggling with. So these biological resources, if we do not look at them, if we do not know them, we will not be having an adequate germplasm familiar to us, which we would want to screen tomorrow for these metabolites, which are components of biological diversity. So, also there are a large number of natural products, natural vitamins, sources, natural protein sources, which are again, from the biological pool. Spirulina, which you all must be knowing, is a source of protein. So it's an alga which is a source of protein. There are many marine plants which you probably might not be knowing, but those who study botany, they know the algae, marine algae, bigger, aquatic plants. They are potential sources of large number of polysaccharides, which can be put to industrial use. Again, one more important thing which I want to bring out here is that, energy is something which governs the politics of the countries. The petrol prices govern how, politics will shape up. And we know that the fossil fuels are becoming a scarce commodity now, because we have already exploited a lot of it. So where do we fall back on energy needs? So people are looking at biological sources. You have biofuels which are now being talked about, and which are now actually being used as well, but in blended ways, because standalone biofuels do not have that much of capacity to run engines. But when you fortify them with the other existing fuels, they can enhance the power of engines, and we can run them in a blended mode. So people are looking at biological resources. For example, certain trees, certain herbaceous plants, which are called as biodiesel plants, because they have latex in them, which can be processed into isoprene units, and you can get carbon sources of energy. So what I'm trying to tell you here is that biological diversity needs to be studied by everyone. Even chemists should look at biological diversity from their own perspective, because it can solve the problems of the drug industry. It can solve the problems of energy industry to some extent. Also, from the ecological point of view. It is this biological diversity which maintains the seasonal cycles. If there were no trees, there would have been no evaporation happening, no water cycling taking place, because it's through the trees that a lot of water gets transpired and turns into vapor, gets condensed and falls back as precipitation. It is these plants which hold the soil together and help in the conservation of soil. It is these forests which harbor so many other animals in them, so they make the habitats rich in various other sources, and lots of energy cyclings take place through these organisms through various trophic levels. So biological diversity does not only have economic uses, it has ecological uses. Many of the organisms are natural scavengers. You have a lot of animals which die, but if you go to a forest, you will not see any stinking smell there. It's because the natural organisms themselves come and decompose them, and some of the animals eat the dead vultures and other birds. They eat the dead animals and clear the forests very fast. You don't have to rely on any municipal committee staff to clean up the forest, because biological diversity on its own takes care of it. So there's a lot of work which these organisms, which are components of the biological diversity, do for us. Pollination, a very important ecosystem service, is carried out by bees, butterflies, some mollusks, and birds. Otherwise, if there is no pollination, there would be no seed formation. If there is no seed formation, there will be no agricultural commodities. Most of us consume seeds, because legumes, we eat dal. Dal is actually seeds from the fruits. We use spices. They are also seeds. We use oil seeds for extraction of oil. They are also seeds. And seeds are set after fertilization, and fertilization happens because pollination takes place, and pollination is carried out by insects, birds, butterflies, mollusks. In some islands, even lizards carry out pollination. So cockroaches have been found to be pollinators of some species. Ants are pollinators. So we must not undermine any of the components of the biodiversity, because each component, maybe we are not familiar with many of those components, because there are many of them which are there in the roots, and that is called as hidden half. We have not discovered much of the biological diversity below the soil. So we should not undermine any of the organisms which are there. So understanding biodiversity is important from various angles, because of the food value, because of the ecological services they carry out for us, because of the economic services they offer us, because of the industrial products you can harness from the biological components. So it is important for all of us to understand biodiversity. And it is I'll again bring one point which is related to the present COVID situation. Many people feel that many scientists are of the opinion that since we have not taken care of the biological diversity, that is why the COVID pandemic outbreak happened. That is how SARS coronavirus 19 spread over. Most of these viruses are already there. There are thousands and billions of bacteria and viruses which are there in the environment, and they have their hosts, and these hosts are in the wild. Many of these viruses, bacteria, they stay in their hosts in the wild conditions, and there they have not shown any harmful symptoms. They are in harmony with those hosts. But what have we done? We have spoiled the forest. We have overexploited the forest. We have destructed the forest to bring more land under agriculture, and then we have also used the agricultural land for making housing projects and other things. So the casualty is the forest, and forests are where these wildlife species reside. And these wildlife species, irrespective of, again, the taxonomic affinities, are hosts of lots of these viruses and bacteria. So when the forests are not there, the wild hosts are not there. So where would these viruses go? These viruses need a host to divide. So they keep on seeing here and there, and they found that human population is so large, and they entered into human population. And because this was a new species, it was not its original host. Humans were not the original host of SARS, so they played havoc with the entire world. And you see what are the implications. So we have to understand that biodiversity is important for the maintenance of the health of the ecosystems. And if our ecosystems are healthy, human populations can stay healthy. If we do not take care of the biological diversity, and if we do not take care of these ecosystems, of course, human populations will always have challenges. So we know that we understand that biodiversity is very important to ensure that the society stays sustainable, and we can live at peace. We can live in harmony with the surroundings. But as I said, just citing an example from the present pandemic, there are many threats which biodiversity is encountering on day-to-day basis, and this is also a part of your EVS syllabus. You know that habitats are being destroyed at a very fast pace. The forest cover all across the world is decreasing, and that's happening because of the anthropogenic reasons. And sometimes there are where forest fires, there are natural forest fires as well, as was witnessed last year in Australia and New Zealand. And you saw how many wild animals, especially the marsupials, kangaroos, and all died because of the forest fire devastation in the entire areas of Australia and New Zealand. So forests are a huge casualty, and that is because of the anthropogenic intervention, and also because of some of the natural causes. Hunting and poaching, which is considered to be a game or a sport in some societies, some communities, is also causing the depletion in the biological diversity across. Many of the species which are not natives have been brought into various parts. For example, in India, let's take an example of our own Delhi. We used to have one tree called Prosopis cineraria, jungli kikar, but we introduced Vilaiti kikar, Prosopis juliflora in Delhi. Why? Because it's a fast growing tree. It can grow very fast and give you some firewood. So because of that, gradually what this exotic tree species did, juliflora, which is a Vilaiti kikar, was planted in Delhi, and it took over the entire Delhi ridge. It did not allow the native species to grow because of the various reasons, because it has a better ecological amplitude, because it can grow fast, it can use resources very fast, and it also releases certain substances into the environment which are lethal for the other species. So it took over the entire area. So homogeneous vegetation is a threat to biological diversity. When you have homogeneous genetic stock, the ecosystems become unhealthy. Then pollution is a big issue all across the world. And in Delhi, the water bodies are treated very badly. You had a lecture last week on wetlands. I'm sure you know how water bodies are getting polluted, how air is getting polluted due to the burning of the stubble, which is a big issue in the adjacent areas of Delhi, and many other reasons, industries, automobiles, and the schools had to be shut just last winters on account of the poor quality air index. So there are many reasons why biodiversity is depleting. Deforestation, again, we have already discussed. Climate change is another very, very important issue. And we have to take it seriously because, yesterday or just 2 days before, because of the glacier recession, because glacier, burst, you had such a devastating situation in the hills in Uttarakhand. So we must understand, and one of the reasons probably is that the forests have been cut in that area, and tourists, because of the religious tourism also, many people go to those areas, and because people now want to earn easy revenue, the land management, the land of the hills have to be used in a different way than plains. So you cannot do constructions rampantly as you can do in plains. So those things have to be taken into consideration, and you gradually, you lose forests, you lose biological diversity, and you have such calamities also coming in. Now, understanding what biodiversity is, now understanding why we should be thinking about biodiversity, why biodiversity is important, and what are the threats to biodiversity, I am bringing in here the role of women. If you look at any of the ancient civilizations, and if you look up at any of the ancient art, these art, these paintings and art work, you will see women have been shown to be either cultivating the land, or they'll be trying to bring in food or water. So from time immemorial, if we just go back and peep into our ancient history, women have always played a very important role in understanding biodiversity, in also understanding how to put the biological resources to their optimum use without without negatively affecting the biological resources. So women are also the ones who have to face the challenges where from the loss of biodiversity. So we are trying to address this issue through a two-pronged approach. One is that women have to take a leading role, and also if there is not enough uh, talking, if there are not enough discussions on how to tackle the biodiversity crisis, women are going to bear the brunt. So taking women as a central point, we understand that, if you look at this picture, which actually now I've taken from the internet, you see women have different roles to play. In rural areas, they have to bring in fodder, they have to bring in food, they have to cook the food, they have to collect the food, they have to grow the food, right? So their role in terms of accessing the biological resources and using them is very important. Imagine if there is so much of biological diversity crisis, all their roles have to uh, use more of labor. For example, if they don't have enough fodder in the vicinity, which is again a biological resource, they'll have to negotiate long journeys to get the fodder, because it's their duty according to the setups in the various communities which are running for years now. They have to go and earn some living. So many women do their own farming, family farming, and then also go for labor work in different fields, in tea estates, etc. They gather food, they store food also for the lean seasons. For example, in Kashmir, there is high snowfall for almost 1 month, and the roads are cut. So it is the women who takes care. During summer, she'll bring in the plant and the various vegetables, clean them, dry them, and store them for the winter season, so that dried vegetables can be consumed during winter season. So they, by their involvement in various activities, understand biodiversity more closely. They know how to put the best use of these biological resources without damaging the you know damaging the total output of the resources. So they have been talking and thinking and actually working in a sustainable way from last so many years. And it is because of the involvement of the women in many of these activities, we still have sustainable management of resources in many of the agrarian communities, in many of the rural communities. Again, why women should be at the center stage of the biological diversity, I bow to Mata Saraswati. You see here, she has a swan and she's sitting on a lotus. There's a peacock beside her, and she's wearing a garland of flowers, which are the various components of biodiversity. The Veena star, which she's having, is an owl. It's a byproduct of the biological resources. Only the wood has been used. These things have been used. So you look at how even our ancient and our religious deities have been considering biodiversity as an integral part of their attire, as an integral part of their well-being, and as an integral part of being in unison, being in harmony with the biological resources. So I feel personally also that women are sensitive, and they overthink every little thing, and they care way more than they should. But that makes their love so strong, and that this love is not only towards their own children, it's towards the nature also, it's towards the biological resources also. So where do women come in terms of the employment? You see, women play a very important role in the agricultural sector, especially in the rural areas. So all farming activities where you have agro ecosystems and where agro biodiversity needs to be conserved, they have an important stake. And they are also the main workers there. Again, coming to the urban ecosystems, the job roles change. Here they go into the manufacturing sector, right? So many of the food processing units are manufacturing units, and many of the you know the service industries where the hotel industry and other industry also comes in, tourist industry also come in, have a good percentage of women employees. So while they are there, and they are taking responsibility of using biodiversity in a sustainable way, and also looking at the natural ecosystems, natural biological diversity rich hotspots as nature's bounties. And the way they look at these businesses also has a lot of compassion with them. So if we look at all this, nearly half of the laborer, as I said, in the agriculture are women. They work as farmers, they work in informal sectors, they work in they work as entrepreneurs, they work in forestry, they work in fisheries. So, these are the areas, if we have sustainable services, if we have sustainable management practices, biodiversity is taken care of. You in many places, you see agriculture is still so sustainable. Fisheries, especially in the coastal areas, are sustainable because of the involvement of the women. But most often they do the baseline work, they do the ground level work. But when it comes to the management of the resources, when it comes to the selling, and when it comes to making profits, they are not given that much of importance. So yet they may be users, because they are the ones who run the kitchens, they are the ones who run the household, but they are not considered to be actual managers of biological diversity. Their role is often overlooked, and we all know that this is a fact. uh, Again, if you look at the practices which were operational till now, but there have been some changes in the policies of the government. Women have now access to credit. They are now given, the laws have been refined, wherein the married women have rights to the land of their parents. Still in many places, they don't have their own investments. They are not there in the decision making process. So that is preventing them from benefiting from the biological resources and access to the knowledge database. So what I feel is that in certain communities where they have they are given the role of decision makers, there They have taken biodiversity conservation as their own pursuits. They spend a lot of energy and time in conservation of biological diversity. They also spend a lot of time in creating, you know, awareness in the, what happened? Just a moment. Okay, so wherever they are like the helm of affairs, their biodiversity is taken care of. And the data from various European countries also suggests that in those communities where women are the leaders in agricultural sector, in the service sector, there the allocation of the resources is done properly, and their people have developed economic resilience as well. So I feel it is often the solidarity and strength of the local women that ensures communities security to water and food. You know, in Rajasthan, there are some communities where there is polygamy. Polygamy ka matlab hota hai you can have more than one wife. So because water is such a scarce commodity, they're the men go in for two marriages, and one woman has only one job, to get water for the household chores, and the other woman cooks. So you have to really you are actually incurred as a labor source for families to fetch water for you. So women understands in those communities that if they will not do anything important to conserve water, they'll have to go for another marriage. They'll have to share the family with another women. They'll have to walk miles to get water, irrespective of their ill health or whatever, because they are there. That otherwise the household things will not happen if there is not adequate water. So we must bow in front of the reverence of those ladies for their sense of respect for the nature and their foresight in investing in the nature, so that they can conserve water resources. And it's not for them only that water is important. Water is the eternal substance, which is an elixir for life. If you don't have water, you will not have any life. So they take these challenges very seriously. They take these challenges with a lot of empathy. It's not only in India, in South Africa, in many places, in Botswana, women really struggle a lot to get water and access to to food. So they ensure that in their own areas they can manage resources very nicely, so that their children don't have to die of hunger, and they don't have to be deprived of the basic necessity of life, that is water. But understanding all this, contributions are immense in biodiversity conservation. Still, women are at the receiving end. Whenever there's a problem in food resources, it's the women who is affected the most, because she's the last person in majority of the places to have her food. They are more dependent on the natural resources, because I told you that major chores are domestic chores are done by them. And they make up larger share of the global poor than men, because they do not have access to money, they do not have access to accounts, they do not have access to the property. But yes, the changes are happening, things are changing. The panchayat elections, if you look at in many of the states, you have lots of women, and 33% reservation is again one way ahead, where women in rural areas are playing very important role in conservation of biological diversity. Despite them being marginalized in various sectors, it is the women who are making a positive impact, and it has been seen, a case studies has been done in Europe and Africa, where it has been seen where women run the farms, where women manage the farms, right from labor to yield, to selling of the yield. There 20 to 30% yield increase has been observed. And also in those communities where women have taken charge of the biological resources, where women take it as a responsibility, take it as a responsibility to conserve the biological resources. There is reduction of hungry people. The hunger index is reduced in those areas. So it's quite clear that the women are the guardians of the territories, they are the guardians of the rivers, and they are the means of the continuity of life. So if you read any of the book of Kalidasa, Bigyan Shakuntalam, if you read Mahabharata, our own ancient religious books, Upanishads, they mention how women have co-evolved actually with the biological diversity, how passionately they have taken conservation by setting up what we call as sacred groves in many places across the world, setting up of what nowadays we call as the biodiversity reserves in various parts of the world. So their contribution is immense. I want you to just spend a few seconds observing this photograph, because this photograph, which was published in Hindustan Times, won IFRA Gold Award for the news photography. So what is this photograph showing? It's showing a tribal Rajasthani woman, and she's feeding this wild buck with her breast, and the other breast she's feeding her own child. This is the kind of compassion, this is the kind of the love and affection Bishnoi women. Bishnoi is a tribal community in Rajasthan. They have shown so much of wildlife empathy, wildlife compassion, which no one can match up to. Even educated women across the world who are now saying that they are the environmentalists cannot contribute that much. You see, in those regions, you can see deers walking in their courtyards, and black bucks walking in their courtyards, and peacocks wandering around their porches, and they consider it as their religious duty also to feed them. They'll give a part of their food to them to conserve biodiversity. So I feel that women are going to play a very important role in changing the world in terms of the achieving the sustainable developmental goals. We have 2030 as the year to ensure that we meet all the sustainable development goals, and biodiversity conservation, environmental cleanness, water resources conservation are there. So women are going to contribute immensely to achievement of these sustainable development goals. And if you look at the Convention on Biological Diversity, CBD, that also has recognized the vital role that women are going to play in the sustainable use of biological diversity, and also ensure full participation of women at all levels of policy making and implementation of biological diversity conservation. This is a landmark statement, I must say, that CBD enshrined in its rules that women have to be given a leadership role. It is the women who are going to do and contribute a lot in terms of research, in terms of awareness, in terms of conservation, and in terms of understanding the biological diversity. Now, some priority areas I just wanted to share with you here, that where I feel women can really make a change. And as I just said, because they are more compassionate, they have evolved with the nature, they are also in crosstalk with nature on day-to-day basis, because they have to fulfill the needs of their households, especially in the rural, peri-urban areas, from these biological resources. So they can play a very important role in conservation of all threatened, endemic, and useful plant species. They can also help in identification and safeguarding measures for critical habitats. Because while they go walking to search for water resources, while they go walking to search for fodder, while they go walking to search for the food, they are able to identify the signs of those habitats which nurture certain species, which are useful, which are healthy. They know how wild plants change their cycles, how in a particular spot you can have seasonal cycles of vegetables, and you can harness them. So they understand the nature so thoroughly that they can help in contributing. Again, women groups, watch groups have been set up in various countries where they are protecting the migratory birds and their corridors. Whenever the migratory birds come to India from the Siberia and other countries, there are poachers already waiting for them. They kill them in Afghanistan, as also in Kashmir, because during winters the food is not available in abundance. Vegetables are not there, so migratory birds are coming in winters. So large number of the birds are killed. So, but women help groups have ensured that migratory birds are not, hunted in many areas, and this is happening in Rajasthan. This is happening in some parts of J&K as well. Again, we have already discussed the sustainable use of the resources, how women can ensure that resources are used sustainably. Then prevention of poaching and hunting is a very important thing, which women do not allow in many regions. Even because by nature also they are more humble, they are more soft. Their violence is not what women would want to indulge in. So they have contributed immensely to bringing down the pollution levels also in various places in India, because they know their children can be a casualty, and they are very possessive about their children. So they don't want their children to live in an environment which is not conducive for them to live. So they make large changes in their surrounding environments. They contribute heavily by planting trees, by growing plants which can take up the pollutants, etc. And many of these programs are very annually carried out in the different parts of South India, where women carry out plantations, understanding the value of these certain trees which can trap pollutants, etc. Uh, these are some of the major areas where women can contribute. But what I'm telling you is not just the things which I have just thrown in front of you. Many women have been heroes. I tell them heroes because, heroes cannot be only men. They are heroes in their own domains. They are, and they, all of us must admire the role of Amrita Devi in Rajasthan, who led the movement of hugging the trees. In Rajasthan, Amrita Devi Bishnoi was the lady who was from the Bishnoi tribe, and there some industrialists came in to cut their khejri trees, and they started this drive. Amrita Devi steered this drive, and she, along with the other women in the area, took a stand, and they did not allow that industry, that person who was taking over to cut trees and develop something there, to come in. And they were shooed away from that place because of the foresightedness of these tribal ladies, because they knew their water is dependent upon the trees. They knew that biodiversity, food for other life forms comes from these trees. They knew that their wildlife will suffer because they are living in harmony with the animals out there. So they carried out this task. Similarly, Gaura Devi in Uttarakhand was another lady, another tribal lady from Uttarakhand, who carried out the similar task when people, planters came there to cut down the trees on the hilly slopes. And these people were so far-sighted. They knew that trees are important there, and the kind of soil, the kind of landforms they have there. If trees are gone, the slidings will take place, there will be avalanches, there will be all those things which are happening today because adequate attention is not being paid to biological diversity. You must have all heard about Medha Patekar, who started a movement called Narmada Bachao Andolan. This is also a part of your environmental science syllabus. So she started a campaign against Sardar Sarovar project because she said that if this dam comes up, then the water in the downstream will get slowed down. There will be less water which would reach downstream, and people will have to face lots of challenges. There will be desettlement of the people in that area. They'll have to move because the civilizations which have come up on the river valleys, the villages which are on the river sides, the townships which are on the river sides, their life is so tuned to that kind of a life. Their livelihood is dependent upon water. So if you deprive them of these resources, where will they go? So similarly, another lady, Girja Devi in Orissa, started similar campaigns against the industrial, things which were happening. So again, I have already told you how this Khejri tree outrage was happening, and how Bishnoi community came in and they stopped the cutting of trees. Similarly, in the Uttarakhand, how the ladies out there hugged the trees, which you know as Chipko Andolan. In Andhra Pradesh, it is called as Apiko Andolan. So different places, it's named by different terminologies depending upon the vernacular language used in that area. But idea is that you can't cut trees. You will have to cut us before you cut trees. So understanding that kind of a sentiment will go a long way in conservation of biological diversity. There is a Sena called Vasanta Sena. Again, this is led by women, and it's all women Sena. It's not a Sena to fight a war, but it's a Sena to protect the resources uh, in the Kerala Western Ghats area. Again, in Jharkhand, you have Suramani Bhagat. You must all remember her name because she's a very young girl and she's called Jharkhand's Jungle Girl. People might be knowing the comments coming from Greta about the climate change and now about our farm laws. But we should know more about our own Indian girls, right? So this girl, Suramanya Bharti, has proved an asset in the region because she played an instrumental role in conservation of forests in Jharkhand region. Now, these are some of the ladies who have really, really worked and carved a niche for themselves in biodiversity conservation. And she is Dr. Ray Van Grant. She's a carnivore ecologist. She's a world reputed carnivore ecologist. And day in and day out, she wades in the fairest jungles and risks her life to protect the carnivores. And because she is a carnivore ecologist, she protects the
Sonal sir, are you there? Sonal sir?
कुछ नेटवर्क इशू हो गया है मोनिका मैम की तरफ से.
Okay.
मैं just trying. Monica ma'am, are you back?
Hello, Dr. Sonal? Dr. Sonal? Hello? Hello?
Yes ma'am.
Yeah, actually
Yeah.
मेरी ना लाइट चली गई बीच में, sorry.
Okay.
Okay,
No problem, ma'am. No problem. You can
problem. You
continue.
can start.
Yeah.
You can start.
Sorry, मतलब बुरा वो हो गया, लाइट ही चली गई.
No problem. No problem.
So I'll share my screen again. Is my screen visible?
Not yet, ma'am.
नहीं, वो कह रहा है कि host disabled participant screen sharing.
Okay.
Please let me share my screen. Yeah, so I'll continue in the meantime. So I was talking about this great lady, Van Grant. So she is a carnivore ecologist and she's done a lot of work and she's trying to take care of the human wildlife conflict, because men, when they see wild animals in the vicinity, they try to kill them. But through her interventions, she has been also, studying how anthropogenic factors are affecting the carnivores in the region, and she's trying to understand what leads to the human carnivore conflict. And she has published lots of papers and contributing scientifically as well as raising awareness. Now coming to another very famous women environmental ecologist. Can you tell someone to make me share my screen?
Just in a while, we are trying to do that. Just in a while.
So this environmentalist.
Visible.
Screen is visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So this environmentalist is known as Wangari Maathai. She also received the Nobel Peace Prize. So we must understand that how women are impacting the conservation science across the world, especially in the developing countries. So India also has a lot of potential in terms of young women coming forward and tackling the environmental issues, because we have lots of environmental issues in front of us. And this lady, Wangari Maathai, belonged to a very poor household. And today she's considered to be one of the famous conservation biologists and received the Nobel Peace Prize. She's our own very little young girl, I must say, Dr. Kriti K. Karnath. She is also called as the poster lady of wildlife conservation. And she's the recipient of Hugh Grant for National Geographic Society. She has worked in Western Ghats. She has worked in all difficult terrains. And she was also awarded by Department of Science and Technology, Government of India for her work. Her papers are considered to be the best in the field of conservation biology from the youngsters. I told you that she's the poster girl and she's an Indian, one like you, from a very small town college. You are still in Delhi University, so some of you can come forward and do this kind of a research. It is not important to do wildlife research by doing experiments. As wildlife photographers, as conservation photographers, as conservation biologists, you can come in and use various other talents which you can have and do something about the conservation. So this lady, Tasneem Khan, she uses her skill of photography, and she has clicked such beautiful photographs that they are they are on the cover pages of various magazines. She's also working in the coastal biodiversity area, coastal ecosystems. Those terrains, those areas, like, earlier people would not allow women to work. These were considered to be the domains of men, that they'll only work in forests, they will only work and dive in sea. But now these women have really, taken a leap forward. They are, I use this title that they are bold indeed. Look at Purnima. She is the founder of the Hargila army. Army is not to fight people, but this army is providing voice to rural women to protect trees. She has organized 200 local women into an army, and she is doing a lot of conservation work all across the rural communities in Orissa and the adjacent areas. So this lady got abhi usko Padma Award mila tha, Rahabi Soma Popri. She is a farmer from Maharashtra. So, as biological diversity is important, agrobiodiversity is equally important, because we have so much of diversity in the crop germplasm. आप देखो मिर्ची इंडिया में कितने टाइप्स की है, राजमा इंडिया में कितने टाइप्स के हैं, राइस की कितनी वेराइटीज है. You look at the kind of cereals. We in cities only know about few cereals like rye, wheat, and maize. But there are many grains, many other kinds of plants which rural people use, which are not sold in city markets and vegetable markets. But these ladies work and conserve the native seed germplasm. They are not educated, they don't have degrees in biology, but this lady Popre she began a movement to save native seeds to protect her family from diseases, and 20 years she has been in this work, and now her work has been recognized. She got a Padma Award recently. So now women are also recognized for their role in biodiversity conservation. As you saw that a lady was given a Nobel Peace Prize, here you get a Padma Award. Dr. Kriti was given the DST award. So many women are being acknowledged in the various domains, and recognizing the woman's role as a primary land and resource manager is now becoming the central to the policy making. Policymakers have taken a note of this, that every committee where conservation work has to be done will have few women on board. Women farmers are given the subsidies different from the men farmers. In the new farm policy, I must say there are few things which are pro-environment. I don't want to develop on the other things because this is not the place to debate on those. But I feel that the new farm policies have taken gender issues very seriously. The women farm income is being taken care of. The environmental pollution issues of excess use of pesticides and burning of these stubble is also being discussed, and what ways and what penalties are there for those things also need to be addressed. We must ensure that the certain things which are there in the farming practices which are not environmental friendly are also brought to forefront. So there are many women all across India, especially because living in a country like India, which has so much of diversity in terms of the landscapes. You have mountains and hills in the north, you have desert in the west, you have a coastal area in deep south, and then you have a very interesting a phytogeographic region of the northeast hills. So all these areas require different approach and different way of conservation. So these ladies out there in different regions are playing a proactive role. These are the forest guards, these are forest rangers, and this is a all female forest uh, ranger squad in the Gir forest area, which is taking care of the forest biodiversity there, which is ensuring that there is no poaching happening. So they are taking bigger roles, and women are, in farming, we have already discussed. In certain northeastern regions, women are involved in making group decisions, because in some societies there is no patriarchy, it is matriarchy there. Women lead the households. So wherever these women are involved in group decisions regarding the land management, regarding the conservation, they are earning better incentives. They are also the negative impacts of climate change and negative impacts of the pollution are very less there. So even the outlook with which women work is so different. They don't want to get in, they don't get into conflicts very easily. When they are on the table, they negotiate in a better way. They can ask for higher prices. I understand this gender parity cannot be reached overnight, but we need a continuous effort from the politicians, from the leaders, so that we can shape the mindsets, and we can give the reins in the hands of the women. So till date, when men have been dominating in the decision making tables, they have been formulating policies, but we need women to meaningfully educate when they get a chance to talk about their opinions. There are lots of strides which will be made in the environmental conservation if we allow women to take on the biodiversity related issues, biodiversity related entrepreneurships, processing units. So, there are many such help groups which are now working, coming forward, led by women, and getting noticed also. Again, this lady, see, look at her age. She is Thimaka, popularly known as Vrikshamate, mother of trees, Vrikshamate. And she got the highest civilian award for tireless efforts to make the planet green. And this award ceremony was attended by our Prime Minister Narendra Modi, Home Minister Rajnath Singh, and notable dignitaries. So what I'm trying to say is that right now, many of us, many of you might be walking small steps, doing small things to conserve environment, and probably people are not noticing it today. But tomorrow, maybe when we are able to reach the age she has reached, our work would be recognized. And of course, it's not always important to get accolades for your work. It's important that you make small contributions at your own levels. Yours is a girls' college, all women college. So, creating a special niche for yourself in the area by spreading awareness, by creating that space of talking about the sustainable use of resources, management of waste, you can really go a long way in contributing to your own country, to your own societies. I would want all of you, please, these are not science books, these are typical story books, and these are important because they are written by women. So again, in your environmental science textbook, which is prescribed by UGC, Raquel Carson name is there. She wrote a book on Silent Spring. And this book talks in depth about how mining activities created problems and how women came forward, and they brought those miners to heels to pay and give money for rehabilitation of the people who were affected by those mining projects. So you must read this book. This is a very good book written in very simple language and has a deep impact. Again, coming from a women's pen, has a different way of reaching to you as by spreading awareness. So I have also written lots of articles on various environmental issues. I talk to school students on various environmental issues and try to do my bit by engaging our society students, our environmental science students, our eco club students, and various activities by which we can make a little difference to the environment. And also, there are I feel that the one who grows knows its value and protects too. So it is us at the end, we the women, who have a lot to do in the frontier area of conservation biology. And we can contribute through various platforms, through various means, by writing, by talking, by making street plays, various other things, whatever we are good at, to be the leaders in our own domain areas and steer this campaign, which is started by some of the eminent women across the India. So I thank you for your patient hearing, and I apologize for this power failure once. I hope it was not much of a problem with you. So
No, no, ma'am, no, ma'am.
if we are through with the presentation, I would like to take up few questions. I hope I could make up my point that these women are important and they need to be acknowledged, and their work needs to be acknowledged, and it is their intervention, their contribution, their science which they have done, and their involvement which and commitment which is leading the conservation movements across the world, especially in India. Thank you. I'd like to take some questions.
Sure, ma'am. Sure, ma'am. Any student, if you have any question, please.
Any questions? Any comments? Anything you want me to add?
Okay, ma'am. They will ask their own question. We will wait for that. But I would like to ask, ma'am, what can be done for the city like Delhi? What can be done to conserve the biodiversity of city like Delhi, because we are facing a lot of problems and forest cover is also getting declined day by day. So what do you feel that we can do as a citizen, as a student?
See, I think one of the major things which we can contribute in is raising awareness. We still feel, what we read in books, we are not translating it in our day-to-day lives. We say that water is getting depleted, water is becoming a scarce quantity, but when it comes to our own homes, to our own washing procedures at homes, we use a lot of water, we use a lot of energy. For example, in a place like Delhi, which has a lot of tropical, which has a lot of sun, I mean, we still use dryers in our washing machines to dry our clothes. We don't make use of passive sunlight. And then in terms of the behavior towards environment, we generate so much of waste on day-to-day basis, and actually it is this environment which is the sink of that waste. That waste reaches our water bodies, that waste reaches our land. So we should try to reduce the waste. We should keep some uh, you know I mean, curtail buying new things. We should not keep on buying stuff, because when you keep on buying stuff, you might want to dispose of stuff then. So we have to learn to live in a different way. We have to stop being so consumeristic. Again, the way people buy packaged food, the amount of packaging and this e-shopping, the amount of material which goes out while packing, that's also too much. I think buying fresh food is a better thing for for urban areas. They should not rely too much on packaged materials, and also this e-shopping and all. I think that is also adding to a lot of waste, because they have to pack to so that things reach safe to you. So in urban areas, I feel we have to change the way we live. We have to think in a different way. We have to be less consumeristic, and we have to live by what we read and what we preach in the classrooms as well. For us also as teachers, we must understand that you are teaching something in the class and you must live it in your life. So those things I think become very important, and especially for the students, they can, I feel that plantation is very important. But another thing which is important is which plants are you, uh, planting while you indulge in any kind of a plantation drive. Randomly doing plantation is not nice. We must also know which species is suitable for your own area. So selection of the species is very important, because when you select the right species, the survival chances of those species will be more. And then those trees will grow to their full potential. So what mistakes our students do in all the colleges is they will do lots of plantation drives, but they don't look at what happens after plantation. What is the survival rate? We must indulge them in projects. For example, if they have grown 100 today, how many are left at after a few 3 months? Look at those trees on day-to-day basis. Where trees are faring well? Why are they not faring well in other places where they were planted? So this kind of an education will also help them, understand things in perspective. I feel these things are important. You are not audible. You know.
Ma'am, I'm saying that you have a lot of experience of working in the field of environment. So what do you feel that the message that we should give to our students?
Uh, Please, Dr. Sonal, I would say that, as I said, this lady worked for 110 years. And I mean 100 years, more than 100 years. She's 100-year old, I guess. So, so she did not bother that I'll get something very immediately. So you have to keep on working. You have to be passionate about what you're doing. If you are passionate about conserving environment, if you are passionate about conservation of biological diversity, if you are passionate about the cause, then you must keep working in that field. Maybe tomorrow you might join a job. These students right now are working in environmental society clubs, etc., but tomorrow they might enter into corporate jobs. They have to follow these, they have to bring more people under the same thought process. So you have to bring changes through your thought process, influence other people, and simultaneously, in whatever capacity you are, you might become a manager, you might become a civil servant, you might become a police officer. You always have corporate social responsibility projects in every institution. You might join a corporate industry, you might join a, a software industry, but every company, every institution has to do certain corporate social responsibility projects. So those of you who are inclined towards environment can become a part of those projects and keep on doing that work. It should not be left here because you get a certificate attending a particular lecture. You should carry it forward. That is the important message.
I think it's a very nice message, ma'am. And I can very well proudly say that out of our 4 webinars that we hosted in the past few weeks, and 3 of them are given by women. So I think women are contributing a lot toward environment, and I'm proud to say that. So if you, ma'am, if you permit, let me give the vote of thanks. If any more
Yeah,
questions
thank
are.
you. I must tell you that Dr. Sonal was, we are from the same school. I mean, we have been trained in the same environment. Our guide has instilled in us the qualities of being good to environment. So we would always use paper backside thrice and then throw it away. We would never waste any paper in the lab. So that kind of a culture and that kind of an essence is very important right from this age. So no unnecessary printing of paper, no unnecessarily no buying stuff, always carrying our own bags. So we have learned all those things, not using too much of plastic folders. So and I'm sure Dr. Sonal must also be telling you all these things in his regular classes. So I feel that you are a faculty which has come from JNU and Delhi University, and they are instilling you in the love for environment, love for nature, and compassion for the other life forms. If you have it, then you are through and you are successful as individuals in your life. Thank you, Dr. Sonal, and thank you, Principal Ma'am, and other members of the club, especially the students. I am so grateful to you that you listened to this talk, and I hope it was fruitful for you and you could learn something new out of it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Monica. If all said well, then I would like to give my vote of thanks to our principal, ma'am. First of all, I would like to thank Dr. Sadhna Sharma, ma'am, for permitting us and supporting us for this webinar. I also thank
Nandini,
Dr.
Nandita Gupta wants to say something, Sonal. She has
Definitely,
raised her
we will take her question. I will also like to thank Dr. Amna Mirza, convener of our society, and Dr. Garima Shukla, co-convener of Eco Club, for their expert inputs. I also thank Mr. Manish, faculty member, Department of Computer Science, for connecting us to our student through YouTube. And I also thank Sarabjit sir and Mr. Johnny for connecting us on platform of Zoom. I also thank my staff members, Dr. Nazia, Dr. Sivesh, Dr. Sayogita, to be there with us all the time whenever I need them. I also thank one of my student coordinator, Dr. Ms. Nandita Gupta. She helped us a lot in connecting to our students. And I overall thank my students who are there on live through YouTube and connected to us. So with this all, if Nandita has a question, please, ma'am, please, we will be happy to hear from her.
Good afternoon, ma'am. Actually, ma'am, as we have known that there had been so many women which they are trying to conserve the environment. So, according to you, what would be the motivation to do this?
motivation, always comes when you have some challenges. So I feel that try to look for the thing which is, which is not letting you sleep. Some problem which you feel is there in terms of the environment, and you want to solve it. So if you have that challenging question in front of you and you want to do something about it, you already have a way out. So try to figure out why the problem is there, how is it affecting people. And once you understand that, you will always, find out ways to mitigate it. And if you are able to notice that one challenge or one problem in your area, in your own region, in your own village, in your own locality, there must also be certain similar things happening in some other part of the world, and people might have looked into those issues. So you can take ideas from there, or you can develop your own strategies by involving some other people who have some knowledge area. Interdisciplinary knowledge sometimes is required to get a solution for a problem. So you can initially, if you notice an area, then you can bring in people from different domains on a common platform, and try to figure out what can be done about it. But you should have a problem in hand. You should understand what problem is there. I feel that is an adequate motivation for you to go further.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Yeah, Nandita, thank you.
So if no more questions are there, so I would thank Dr. Monica for accepting
Thank
our
you so much.
invitation and for sparing time for us. And I think
Oh, it
lot
was a
of
pleasure to talk to your students. And since it was an all women's college, I intentionally chose women and biodiversity conservation, so that they know that how women are impacting biodiversity circle.
Sure, definitely. Thank you, Monica. Thank you for sparing your time.
Thank you, Dr. Sonal. Thank
Thank
you,
you, Monica.
everyone. Thank you, everyone. Also, the non-teaching staff who is handling the portal and all. Thanks.
Sure. Definitely. Thank you, Monica. Thank you.
Thanks.